The way I sell points is I don't tell them you can get 2.75 by paying 2.5% down. I don't say that. What I do is I sell it by payment. And so in other words, I'll say, okay, you can get your payment down to here for this month, this would be your loan amount. In other words, so if I worked out the 2.75 and I knew it was 2.5 points into the loan amount, I sell them on the payment. I say, but your loan amount's gonna be here. But if you wanted the par rate, which like, let's say 3.5, I say this would be your payment and this would be your loan amount. So I get them comfortable with the payment and the loan amount first. And the reason for that is because when they witness that they're either gonna like the monthly payment, which then is gonna root to the question, well, what's the interest rate on it? Well, the interest rate on this is 2.75. That's you're gonna catch them on either one of them. So they're either gonna like the interest rate and say, I want that one. And you could tell that they're based on ego, right? But they're not making the decision of buying down the points yet. You get them comfortable with the result and get them comfortable with the rate and the monthly payment and the loan amount first, and then you close them on the specifics later. What's up, guys? Thanks for making it out. I'm always seeing the junior team here, so it's always exciting. It's always exciting. I never get to really see some veterans or old dogs out there like myself, and I think that's really kind of a testament to your desire, because I think that's one of the reasons why newer agents come into the field and they have such a tremendous amount of momentum, because it's excitement. I shot an email over to my team earlier this week, and I asked them, I said, hey, do you know what the difference is between a mediocre, low producing agent versus a top producing, top paid loan officer? And I said the answer was excitement. And the reason for that is because you're looking at your job almost like a brand new relationship, right? Remember when you first got in that relationship, you just text each other, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. Okay, bye. You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of got that rush. And so nonetheless, I appreciate you guys always making it out. Otherwise I'd just be here by myself. So in this meeting, what I wanted to do is I wanted to cover 3 important topics, and the topics that we're going to be talking about, number 1 is how to pick up an extra 4 refi deals in December. And so December, obviously being a holiday month, I really only account basically the first 3 weeks, because after the first 3 weeks, our prospects and our borrowers typically will check out. In some cases we do too. And it's because the holidays are around, right? And so everyone's focused on preparing for family coming in, or they're preparing for travel. And so even though we're in the midst of the first week, we still got technically 2.5 more weeks to capture these 4 deals. And so how I did the math was averaging about a couple extra deals per week. And so these deals may not necessarily fund in December, but at least it'll give you a creative outlet so that you could capture 2 extra deals to add into your pipeline. And another side note about December is that a lot of our competition checks out early, meaning they don't try as hard, and it's just natural, because there's a lot of agents, especially who are seasoned, who made a lot of money over the last couple months, and so they kind of treat themselves, and this is natural. But where we got to see the opportunity is that while they sleep, we can kind of creep in and snag some of those deals, right? Or at least get in front of some of the prospects who are already in the midst of shopping. And so without further ado, I want to cover a couple strategies that you guys can implement right now to capture at least a couple extra deals this week, next week, and the following week. So it's not just 4, it could be as many as you want. And the method is primarily outbound calling. Outbound calling and follow-up calls. And I know this is a call center, you'd be like, but D, I get leads transferred to me, why should I call out? And one of the most key methods of actually securing business, I think there's like this statistic that says, you got to call someone 8 or 9 times before they say yes. If you guys ever seen that statistic before. I'm lazy, so I didn't want to call like 8 or 9 times. So I try to be about as efficient as possible so that I'd only have to call maybe once or twice, right? But it's the method in which we call. And so we can also adopt some of these techniques and apply them to our inbounds. But the idea is, and I emailed it out, is understanding the difference between curiosity and intent. I think that a majority of the outbound calls, as I outlined in that email, if you didn't see it, we call and we have this tonality of curiosity. And so we're calling and saying, hey, I was just wondering if you're in the market, or hey, I'm wondering if you're interested in lowering your rate and payment. Hey, I'm wondering if I can send you a proposal. And there's a reaction that we unknowingly push to our prospects or the person that we're engaging to kind of give them a way out. And so it's very easy for them to say no, especially if they're busy. But you'll find that people will actually comply and go along with the flow as long as you're driving the conversation, meaning you're coming with a tone of intent. And so a great method right now would be to look up your BV leads or your BVQ, and you're actually going to, well, I personally would go through Encompass. And the reason for that is because you want to attack the people who, or not attack them, okay, don't attack them. You want to approach the people that have a genuine need. So in other words, we're not calling back Jim with the 680 FICO who's already at 3.75 and thinking about paying off $5,000 in credit card debt. That's not the guy that we're going to focus our time on, right? What we're going to focus our time on is that one cash out refinance that we could have saved them a ton of money, or that one person who we could have shortened the term or got them out of FHA or did this streamlined refinance. And the reason why is because you'll have intent. So the intent, as I outlined in that example on the email, was talking about that campaign, the campaign that expires at the end of this month. And the reason why we use this method is because it's the fear of missing out. And not only that, but it also installs urgency. And so if you think about the past holiday you just went by, which is Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday and Black Friday. These are one of the most highest revenue generating sale dates in the entire year. And there's a reason for that. It's because the hype behind it. There's reasons why some of us were at Best Buy at 2 in the morning, right? There's a reason why we look out for these deals on Cyber Mondays, because we know that we only have that day, right? And so using that psychology and approaching our prospects with a more targeted niche, like more refined targeted plan. So if I'm calling out people right now to do check-ins or to do follow-ups, who I would be hitting are the FHA borrowers and the VA borrowers. And the reason for that is because I can go one of two ways. With FHA, I can either help them get out of FHA or give them a streamlined refinance, right? And we don't have to call it cash out refinance. We don't have to call it streamlined refinance. Even though that's the title of the program, we can have our own kind of twist on it. And so if I was calling somebody about like a cash out refinance or a streamlined refinance, I'd be like, hey Jim, this is Daniel. Hey, I wanted to get back to you. I'm gonna go and send over an email. It's actually en route right now, and it's regarding your property on Myford. There's this campaign that's going on specifically with this program that enables you to activate your entitlement. And I'm talking about the FHA program, right? So it enables you to activate your entitlement before the year ends, and I can drop the interest rate and payment. I'm gonna send you the details. Whether you use it or not is completely your choice. I just want to make sure you got your hands on this time-sensitive information because it's expiring at the end of this month. Hey, well, I got you on the phone. Let me ask you a few basic questions, right? So that I can tailor a little bit more. Do you see the difference between the approach of saying, hey, Jim, this is Daniel. If you remember, we talked a couple months back. I was wondering, if you're still in the market to refinance, right? So it's already in motion. And the reason why you want to convey that type of energy is because, again, they're going to comply with you as long as you drive it. So there's not too many things that they could say back to you. As a matter of fact, towards the end of this meeting, I want to do a live role playing and objection handling. So I'm going to ask for a couple volunteers to really hit me with some really hard objections and have fun with it. But at the end of the day, you have to, and I hope you guys do, participate, because I will have, ask you to come up or maybe sit up close so the microphone can catch you. But when we do this approach, we can paint the picture as we so choose. And so if we say that we got this special program that expires, we've just made it a little bit more exclusive, right? It's not, hey, I was wondering if you wanted to do the streamline refinance, because there's nothing, people see advertisements every day like, hey, do this streamline or do this cash out refinance. But if I called you and I was talking about a cash out refi, Then I said, hey Jim, this is Daniel. Hey, I'm gonna send over some information about this program that we got expiring at the end of this year. It's helped a lot of homeowners in Orange County actually turn revolving credit card debt into tax eligible debt, meaning you can now write off the interest. Anyway, I'll share the details with you a little bit more, but it has a lot of focus to do with regards to improving your FICO and creating enough cash flow to replenish your bank account from the holiday spending. Anyway, right? You see how I'm sprouting up the curiosity? But all it is just cash out refinance. So you're using the results as a kind of a foot in the door, right? As opposed to saying, hey, I was wondering if you wanted to pay, do a refinance and pay off some high revolving debt or some credit card debt, because they're not going to want that. But if you open up with the result, I think they'll be a little bit more, enticed to listen to you. Now, the selective words that you guys use when you make contact with these prospects, there are certain words that could trigger reactions. Not only the tonality of your voice by being curious, you'll sound like a salesman, right? You'll sound like kind of someone knocking on the door, and so that triggers a reaction from the prospects to push you away or say no. But there are other things that trigger a person's reaction, such as certain words. And so if you say, hey, my name is Daniel Niekart, calling with New American Funding, I've triggered them to believe that I'm a business. Does that make sense? I never say that. So if I was calling Jim, like some of you guys may even call and say, like, the guy's name is Jim Jones. Jim Jones. You'd be like, hey, Mr. Jones, right? Don't do that, because you're again triggering them to think that, oh, this is some telemarketer. But if you approached them and said, hey, Jim, this is Daniel, just getting back to you, it's a different mindset. It's a different method. It's a different mode, because you're catching them off guard and they're thinking like, getting back to you, who's Daniel? When did I talk to this guy? Right? But you're capturing enough time to extract more attention. And so ideally you want to be able to have their subconscious actually absorb your message, and the message that you talk about is actually what's going to keep them going. But it can't be anything out of curiosity, because now you're having them make a decision. Does that make sense, guys? All right. So I don't want to go too deep on you guys, but at the end of the day, I think that if we have a little bit more refined plan, and then you can simply go to your Encompass and you look at every Encompass and you prioritize it by loan number. And if you prioritize it by loan number, that's basically the date, right? 1/9 is 2019. And so if you prioritize it by loan number, you can kind of get a good idea of what made it to Encompass and what you actually talked about a loan program for. And so if you itemized it or prioritized it and you saw FHAs, conventional, 30-year fix, 15-year fix, right? I would solely focus on not only the high balance, but also the FHA and the government loans, because those are individuals who have special treatment outside of conventional. So they could do streamlines, IRRRLs, they could do 100% financing, 90% financing. FHA is obviously motivated to remove the mortgage insurance. So another example, like, hey Jim, this is Daniel. Hey, we got a campaign that's actually going to expire at the end of this year. It actually teaches you how to remove yourself from FHA mortgage insurance sooner than later. But it is time sensitive. I want to make sure it hits your inbox and you got your hands on this information. Whether you decide to use it or not, it's completely your choice. But at least you have the information to make a wise decision. Anyway, it has to do with removing the mortgage insurance. I'm sure you probably want to remove mortgage insurance as soon as possible, so this would be your way of doing it. So it has to do with your property on Myford, and I'm going to show you how to actually activate what you're already entitled to, so that you can pay down your principal or you can remove mortgage insurance altogether. Make sense? All I'm doing is I'm saying that you could either do a streamline or we could refinance you out of FHA altogether. But the intent is there. It's not curious. I'm not asking him if I could send it to him. I'm not asking him if it's okay. Another trigger is that when you call people, or when they call you, and you ask them, like, hey, what got you interested in calling in today, right? Hey, what are you interested in? These things are certain triggers that number one, it changes the trajectory of the conversation. And so if you allow them to focus solely on rate and fees, or if they say, hey, I'm just looking to lower my rate and point and fees, and then you move on, you're not really capturing the meat and bones of it. So when you do get someone who's interested, and this will help you very much on your inbounds, so you can, again, capture at least a couple more deals for December. When they tell you that they want to lower their rate and payment, or they want to get that offer that they say that they saw advertised with no closing costs, Say, awesome. With regards to the monthly savings, I just need to make a few notes. With regards to monthly savings, where would you redirect that to? Would you put it more towards your credit card debt or other debts, or towards your checking and savings, like your primary savings account? And the reason why you want to do that is because that result, it's going to lead you to a pain point. And so anytime we ever engage with a prospect, our real motive is to find what's hurting them, right? Because at the end of the day, what we do is we solve problems. We're solution providers. And so if their problem was because that they needed extra cash flow to replenish their bank, or to offset declined income, or to pay off a certain debt, or even pay the mortgage off faster, our message has to be lined with that, nothing else. There's no reason to talk about anything different than what they want. Otherwise, we're going to burn our time, right? So if you ever spent 45 minutes on the phone with somebody and you completely missed out, like, man, I can create this guy a ton of savings, I got a ton of benefit, why won't he give me his business? Well, it's because your message was not compatible to his lingo, his verbiage. So he could have been telling you all along, like, hey, this is important to me, this is important to me. All you have to do is sprinkle your pitch with those exact words that are focused around those areas. Okay? All right, so next is how to get your borrower to call you back and re-engage with you. One thing that does happen, and it applies to even me too, is there'll be times where we have to pitch a deal, and sometimes we just don't close it on that call. And so now we're required to call them back. The problem is though, is that even though we call them back and leave messages, we don't ever hear back from them. That ever happen to you guys? So there's a method to do a specific script or voice message strategy that's going to help you increase the return calls. Number one is understand that every voicemail you leave should be followed up with an email and a text message. So it's always important, you got to be proactive to get that SMS consent right up front. The best, do your best to do that, because that's going to be a third avenue of trying to make connection with the prospect. But the reason why is because when you leave a voice message, why most don't get answered back is because either there's too much information on the voicemail, or you're leaving it wrong, triggering different reactions from them. So for example, one of the most common ways to leave a voicemail is, hey Jim, this is Daniel with New American Funding. I just wanted to follow up with you to see if you had time to look at the options that I emailed you, or if you had time to look at the disclosures, or if you had time to think about the 30-year fix and the cash out and the monthly savings. Anyways, give me a call back, right? So you're giving them too much information, but you're also leaving it up to them to just say no. Whereas if I dropped a voicemail and I left a little bit more kind of curiosity, or entice them to give me a call back, because I'm using curiosity in my favor as leverage, I would leave a message as something like this. Like, hey Jim, this is Daniel. I just emailed you an important message. Please reply back when you get a chance. If you can't call me direct at 949 blah, 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 simply reply back to the email. Let me know you got it. That's it, right? So the reason for that is because you want them to check their email and then give them an out to either reply to the email or call you, but you don't want to give any information out. It's always something like, hey, something came up. And so I would always use this line that worked really well and say, hey Jim, this is Daniel. Hey, you know what? My manager and I were looking at your loan file and he found something I completely missed. I want to go over it with you though. So I can either email it or I can go over the details with you by phone. Just reply back to my email if you can't call me at 949-267-2144, right? Or call me and I'll go over the details with you. I'll be on standby until I hear from you. And again, you're creating that curiosity. So they're like, okay, well, what did the manager find, right? And so when they do call you back, all you're doing is just getting that engagement. And so when they do call you back, you should by then already know what they didn't like, right? So because you get that feeling, and they may even told you, so yeah, this guy didn't buy because he wanted to think about it, or he didn't like the rate, or he didn't like the cost. And so when they called back, our manager found an opportunity where they can either remove all the closing costs or they can get a lower interest rate. Now, when you go over the details of that, it's very important that you figure out what the monthly payments are. So, the way I sell points is I don't tell them you can get 2.75 by paying 2.5% down. I don't say that. What I do is I sell it by payment. And so in other words, I'll say, okay, you can get your payment down to here for this month, this would be your loan amount. In other words, so if I worked out the 2.75 and I knew it was 2.5 points into the loan amount, I sell them on the payment. I say, but your loan amount's gonna be here. But if you wanted the par rate, which like, let's say 3.5, I say this would be your payment and this would be your loan amount. So I get them comfortable with the payment and the loan amount first. And the reason for that is because when they witness that they're either gonna like the monthly payment, which then is gonna root to the question, well, what's the interest rate on it? Well, the interest rate on this is 2.75. That's you're gonna catch them on either one of them. So they're either gonna like the interest rate and say, I want that one. And you could tell that they're based on ego, right? But they're not making the decision of buying down the points yet. You get them comfortable with the result and get them comfortable with the rate and, the monthly payment and the loan amount first, and then you close them on the specifics later. Cool? All right. So does that make sense with regards to the voice message, email, and text strategy? Okay, so the voice message is very, it's to the point, it's more mystery, right? So there's something that came up, I want to get this out to you, I didn't catch it, my manager caught it, and I want to get it out. I can either email it to you or go over the details by phone, let me know what's best for you. If you can't call me back, email me, right? And so you're letting them know you email them, hopefully you can send them a text. And then the email, it all roots back to calling you. So that when they read the email says, hey Jim, I just left you an important message. Let me know what time you could chat. If you can't call me at 949, just reply back to this email. All you're doing is fishing for engagement, right? You just want them to re-engage with you, and then with your creativity, you can carry it on the rest of the way. Any questions on that? No? Okay, cool. All right. All right, let's do some role playing, yeah? So I want to be able to practice some inbound and outbound role playing, and I want to be able to kind of go over the traditional method versus why this method may be a little bit more effective. The role playing is what I'm going to look for is you being the prospect, and so you're calling in, and then I'm going to do an example of me calling you, outbound calling you. Okay? Anyone want to participate? Everyone shy? You don't mind? Yeah, let's do it. Thank you, Luke.
Talk about excitement.
All right.
All right, so you guys want to do inbound or outbound first?
Inbound first.
Inbound first? All right, sweet.
So I'm calling in?
Yeah, so who knows Luke? You know Luke, right? So be the CSR and then transfer Luke over to me. So you contacted me. This is Daniel.
So you want me to be the CSR?
Yep. So I'm on the phone and you're transferring the call to him.
Yes, I have a loan officer that will speak to you about what you're trying to do, refinance. Let me go ahead and introduce you to him. His name is Daniel.
Awesome.
And Daniel, I have Luke on the phone. He's from California and he's looking to refinance.
Okay, so step one, if the CSR didn't tell you if it was an inbound or outbound, find that out. Okay, no worries, no worries, because some CSRs don't tell you, right? Do you know why it's important to understand? Okay, you're fired. No. Do you guys understand why it's important to identify if it's inbound or outbound? Yeah, exactly. Different pitch, different tonality, different rhythm, right? So, okay, so let's use this example. Let's say he was an inbound call, all right? Inbound call, and you got both the CSR and the LO on the phone together. So immediately what I do is I set the very first impression. So I say, thanks Heath, hey Luke, thanks for holding. How many of us do that? Okay, good. Oddly enough, the CSRs do that, right? You got a heart for the CSRs. No, but it's just common courtesy. But it also makes them feel like you guys know each other, and so you guys are under the same roof. That detail goes a long way. So I've always made sure that I did that. Hey Heath, thanks. I got it, Heath. Thank you so much. Hey Luke, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good. The reason why Heath's transferring you over to me is because I'm licensed and authorized to provide you with the information that you need. But before I even begin, let me see if I can help you save some time. If I can help you, I'll show you exactly what I can do. But if I can't, at least I'll point you in the right direction. Now, the property we're going to talk about, Luke, it's your property on Myford, right?
Yes, sir.
Got it. It looks like you've owned the house since 2014.
Yep.
Perfect. And then it looks like the last time you did your loan was with Chase in 2017. Balance was right about 350.
Sounds right.
Okay. Is there an equity line or a second on the mortgage?
No, just the first.
What about credit card debt?
Yeah, I have plenty of that.
Roughly how much? Estimate's okay.
About 25,000.
About 25,000. So number one, and side notes as I'm going through here, okay? Because I need you guys to pick up these details. So number one, he said about 25. So I could tell he's somewhat tied to the numbers versus saying, I think we, or we have. Because if there's we, then I'm gonna be pretty cautious and ensure that I don't pitch just Luke by himself. Make sense? All right, so, okay, great. So 25,000, roughly how much do you send in monthly payments to that 25,000?
Usually the minimum payment. Can't really afford more than that right now.
I see.
The holidays coming up and you gotta buy presents for the kids.
Yeah.
You know how that is.
Yeah, the kids have a lot of expensive habits. Now, with regards to the minimum, now regarding the minimum payment, Luke, outside of that, where's your, what other debts do you have? Let's start off with installment loans.
Just got a car payment, and I got just insurance, cell phone, nothing really other than the credit card debt.
Okay.
And then my mortgage, obviously.
And is there anyone else on the loan?
Yeah, my wife.
Is there two sources of income in the house, or are you the only one?
No, I just work. She's a stay-at-home mom.
Got it. And you said you had dependents. How many?
Two young kids.
Okay. How old are they?
3 and 5.
Nice. Okay, sweet. So with regards to you being the primary source of income and only paying the minimum payments towards the credit card debt, we have what's called a net net. A net net is basically how much of your net income do you net for that month. So I will only see your gross, but only you'll see your net. So this is after your taxes, your 401k contribution. But my interest is what your net net is. So after you pay all your expenses, your credit cards, your groceries, dining out with the wife, daycare if you have it, or hobbies for the kids, how much of your net income do you net going into the next month?
Well, I'm in sales too, so it does fluctuate. So some months is good, some months is bad, but usually maybe 500 to 1,000.
Okay, cool. And then how much of that are you putting just in savings for nest egg?
As much as I can, but not every month I could do it. But some months 1,000, some months 0.
How much is your current checking and savings balance?
About 2,000.
Okay, so you guys see how that was a bridge question that allowed me to get to a very sensitive question. Number 2 is a salesman. Salesman's a salesman's dream. I could sell any salesman. We all can, because a salesman loves buying, right? I don't know why it's weird. But so pick up on a few things. Number 1 is that he said his income fluctuates. He also said he's the primary source of income in the household. The wife is a homemaker, and there's only 2. He has 2 young kids, right? So already we can kind of see the leverage. They're living check to check. His income fluctuates, and the fear of not being able to provide for his family is there. Make sense? Okay. So, and then with regards to your current checking and savings, you said about 2,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Your current mortgage payment, how much is that?
It's about 2,200.
Okay, so basically you got 1 month mortgage tucked away in the bank. Okay, so Luke, what we do is we have a campaign that's specific to your area of Orange County, and what it does is it actually shows homeowners how to replenish their bank account and possibly remove some of this high revolving debt and make it tax eligible. Since you're in sales, you probably appreciate that because you try to write off everything but water, I imagine. But anyway, whether or not you qualify for that, I don't know. So I'm gonna ask you a few more basic questions first, and this is gonna let me know if I can even go that far.
Sounds good.
Make sense? So I'm kind of taking it away, but I'm also dropping seeds of the result. Notice I've never asked him what he wants to do, right? What are your goals? And the reason for that, because if I would have asked you what are your goals, what would you have said?
I saw a 2.75 rate.
Right? And then what I do? Shit, I just saw a rate sheet that was in all red ink. Right? Yeah, can you send me a screenshot? Right? So then you take it away and you say, okay, you know what? We got a couple programs that are specific to your area. We had a campaign that's going on in Orange County that actually helps homeowners replenish their bank account through monthly savings, remove high revolving debt, and protect their FICO score. But let me see if you can even qualify for that first, just to make sure. I'm gonna ask a few basic questions. So with regards to income, how long have you been with your employer? And then you go through the 1003. Make sense? So the 1003 has to be a conversation, meaning you're not going in order. So I'm not asking him what year did he buy his house, how much did he buy his home for, because it's on the property profile. I'm not asking him his employer address or phone number, because I don't need that now. I'll get that when I get his STIPs. Make sense? If anything, I'll ask him, now, because I do know he's in sales, there's a couple red flags that I need to look out for, which is one of the main reasons why I moved the declaration questions right up to the front. So right when I know that there's a deal, which I found out in about how long? About 30 seconds, I was able to figure out I got this guy, right? because he told me he got debt, he's making the minimum payments, he's a sole income in the house, he's got dependents, right? And so I moved the declaration questions in right away and say, okay, so we got a couple programs, replenish your bank, blah blah blah. Let me see if you qualify first, and if you do, I'll show you what that looks like. Now, are there any bankruptcies or foreclosures, Luke?
No.
Okay. Have you short sold any properties in the last 7 years?
No.
Are you part of any judgments or lawsuits?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any solar panels on the house?
No.
Why? Why would I ask for solar panels on the house? Right. Exactly. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Anyone on title besides you and your wife?
No.
Okay, why? And again, because there has to be another party with regards to the title, right? So for all I know, he shares title with his brother, and then they're not doing good, right? The brother is mad at him for hitting on his wife or whatever. But these are the things that you want to look out for, because if I found out that, yeah, I just got out of bankruptcy 3 years ago, then I'm going to tailor my conversation a little bit more towards an FHA. But then I also have leverage to extract more information from him and also create the fear of going through that path again. And say, okay, well, if you had bankruptcy 2 years ago and right now you're living check to check, maxed out credit cards, minimum payments, and you're the sole income, the last thing I want you to do is go down that path again. Hey, we got this program that actually helps you avoid bankruptcy. You guys see what I'm getting at? Do you know why that's very helpful? Or do you guys get it, like as far as why that would actually keep Luke drawn more towards me? Is because I'm talking specifically to him, right? All right, so you gotta hit me with some objections too, all right? So hit me with some real good ones. So, all right, so Luke, with regards to employment and your income, how much is just your base salary?
About 50,000.
About 50,000, and then the rest is commission and bonuses?
About 50,000 commission as well.
About 50,000, okay, and then you've been...
Give or take, some months is good, some months is bad. So
all right.
This year's about 30.
Okay, but over the last 2 years, your average W-2 looks like what?
About 80,000.
Okay, so 160, right? And we already know that 50 of that is, because the commission rule for income guidelines is 2 years consistent, right? You can't just use commission income if they've only been earning it for 1 year. So if Luke would have said, oh, I've only been a salesman for 6 months, I can't count that commission income. What I can count is that 50K base. Got it? All right, so just be careful with that, because that's also important. Same thing with overtime. Okay, cool, overtime, you've been working this amount of overtime for at least the last couple of years? Oh no, we only had overtime this month or this year or whatever. Then I have to ignore that overtime. Got it? Okay. All right, so, so it looks like I can go and put that information together for you, Luke. All I have to do is just verify a few things. So what I'm gonna do is request a copy of the credit report, and then this will allow me to release a proper disclosure so you can see all the numbers in writing.
What's it gonna be?
Well, that's a good question. That's actually what I'm gonna prepare for you. The goal right now, Luke, is to help you alleviate yourself from the $25,000 in credit card debt. I can only imagine it's impacted your FICO score. Fortunately, you haven't had any late payments on the mortgage, right?
No.
Not on the credit cards either?
No, but 2017 I made good money, my credit was good, so I got a good rate, so I don't really know if I should do this refinance or not.
Sure. Well, the alternative, Luke, is to continue paying minimum payments, let that $25,000 deteriorate your credit, live with less than 1 month of living inside your bank on a commission-based income. You did mention your income declined.
Yeah.
I would only imagine that you probably I'd only imagine that you probably resort back to credit cards, but then that would increase your minimum payments, which in lieu of having a declining income, you're not really left with too many different options. So here, let's do this. If I show you what I can do for you and it doesn't make any sense, then by all means, at least you have the information to take action. But if you do have information that can show you how to replenish your bank account, protect your FICO, remove $500 that you're spending towards in credit card debts, and protect your family, then at least you know you can take action on it now. So when I request a copy of your report, Luke, what's your date of birth?
April 27th, 1980.
And your social?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? See, a lot of times what happens where most agents go, they go in order. So they do the humdum, right? Are you a man? Are you female? To be honest, guys, I've literally been in loan office for 20 years. I've never asked that question, right?
Isn't it by law you have to ask?
Sure. I've never asked that question.
Okay.
But
It's in the report, you right?
yeah, because why is because it has to sound like a conversation, right? We are we are allowed to make our best guess. Are we not?
Well, it says on the 1003 too, like
Sure.
visual.
Yeah. So, but I've never asked, and I'm not saying it's a big deal. If you guys can't seem to get that out of your verbatim, continue doing it. But I don't do it at that time of right before asking the Social Security, because it just I've turned myself into a tool. I'm just I don't want to say customer service rep for those of you who got heart for customer service rep. Now I'm a customer service rep. I have to keep my impression with the prospect as if I'm the subject matter expert and the authority to get him what he needs. So a few things to kind of pick apart from the conversation I just had with Luke is that I listened. Not only that, but I was more focused on the result in helping him rather than interest rates. When he asked me, well, what's the interest rate? I said, yeah, that's actually what I'm gonna put together for you.
You didn't ask me what I had either.
Exactly, because I don't care, right? I could care less what his interest rate is, because that's not our focus. If I asked him what his interest rate is and he says, I got a 3.75, now I just planted that in the conversation, and I also mess with my own psyche and saying, fuck, now I gotta beat 3.75? Makes sense? My whole message will change.
Here's another rebuttal, like, I got a good rate, what about a HELOC? I was thinking about doing that.
Yeah, not a problem. So equity lines of credit are pretty useful. Unfortunately, the only real downside of it, Luke, is that they're adjustable rates. And some of these have cap rates of 18%. Now, where we are in the market, I would imagine that the market rate could possibly increase, but how it actually affects the equity line of credit is the rate increases and the payment increases as well. It's kind of like having a credit card attached to your house for collateral. The only reason why I would say avoid an equity line of credit is because it compounds interest daily and it's not tax deductible. But if you're qualified, I'll show you what that looks like. Here, watch, let me show you. What's your date of birth? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're always bringing it right back. What's another objection?
I need to talk it over with my wife.
Okay, that comes a little bit later towards the pitch, right?
Yeah.
So, and the reason why is because, again, that's one of the things that I like to practice is when I was asking Luke certain questions, I'm asking him questions to also position myself for the sale. So if Luke gave me that objection, I know it's not, his wife that's going to make the decision. The wife's a homemaker. He's the breadwinner. I'm not saying that that Luke's better, or the husband's better or anything, but I know that he's the one who it's tied to him. So I would pick that up and take that as an excuse, and there's something that I missed. And so if he did hit me with that objection and said, okay, let me go and talk to my wife about it. Yeah, awesome. Let me make a couple notes before I let you go. Okay, Luke, when you talk to your wife about it, what are going to be a couple of the main topics that you want to focus on? And then he's going to tell me unknowingly what he's concerned about. Oh, we're gonna talk about the interest rate because we saw advertised. Yeah, we you mentioned that there's costs. So we're gonna talk about that. Okay, great. So what I can do for you is I can actually give you some information so that when you talk to her, you'll have some relevant content to actually talk about. So if your concern is with regards costs, we have an option where there's no cost. Here's what the monthly payment would look like. And all I'm doing is giving him the rate that would give me enough rebate or lender credit to remove the cost. I don't give him the rate though. Make sense? So if the going rate with no closing costs was 5%, I'm giving him the payment of 5%. I'm saying this is the payment with no closing costs. This is the payment with closing costs. Completely your choice.
I want to see what's the rate.
Yeah, exactly. But after I said, well, which one do you like?
I like the lower payment.
Okay, well then that's 4.5. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's the one with no closing costs? That's 5.25. It doesn't make any sense for you right now. But anyway, Luke, here's the reason why we shouldn't even be focused on that is because after 6 months, when all these debts are paid off and your FICO score is at an all-time high and you're not doing a cash out refinance and you have a good amount of money in the bank, then you're positioned to improve the term overall. So what if I could show you how to reduce your term by 3 to 5 years? That's about 60 less payments of the $2,000 you said you're making. That's $120,000 I can help you save. So the goal is to first prepare you. This is just a bridge. This first transaction is a vehicle. Number one is you're going to become part of the new American family. And so what we do for our current clients is we give them courtesy updates to ensure that they're kept up to speed so they're not paying more interest than they need to at all ever. So the second that the market improves, our system is so technologically advanced, we notify you immediately. That's fucking money, right? Fuck, I'm sold. Let me get some of that, right? So those are the things that you want to talk about, even if they have qualms about the interest rate. So like, yeah, this interest rate's a little bit high. no worries. You're not even going to have it for longer than a year, Luke. Make sense? So we miss out on deals because if they don't like it, we don't know how to come back. And sometimes it's really just the knowledge of wording. And so all the things that I'm covering here is just giving you good ideas of what to say. Because
the payment difference, like, hey, the no cost is this payment, like it's only $12 a month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's, because then they have to recoup. So if the investment is let's say $5,000 for a $12 difference, you say, man, it's gonna take you about 13 years to get that back. So, but hey, you got something real cool to tell your neighbors. Like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. All right, fuck it, let's go 5.25, right? But they bought into it, and so that would alleviate that objection. But but the best way to actually really combat that objection is just position yourself to speak with both of them, even if the other person is a homemaker, right? Just don't even take the chance and say, hey, I need both of you guys able to consent. If you guys are using that strategy already, saying, hey, when will you be by a home computer or tablet to give your consent? I'll be at home at like 4 o'clock. What about the wife? 4:30, and then you set your pitch call that way. If you guys aren't doing that right now and you're still getting hit with objections of let me talk to my wife, it's because you're not taking that step. You're not positioning yourself. Okay. What are some other objections from an inbound call?
My current lender's giving me 3 1/8 already. Do you have something better than that?
Yeah. So that happens typically when? At the very beginning?
Yes.
All right. And that happens because we ask them what?
Their interest rate.
Yeah.
What are they trying to accomplish?
Make sense? So we actually create that objection. So now we have a hill to climb over as opposed to being focused on the results that they're looking for. Some Jedi mind shit right here, right? All you're doing is just moving in a different way. So, but if in the event I pitched them and said, hey, my lender's giving me 3 1/8, say, yeah, no worries, Andrew. Me and your lender, we actually go to the same exact location for the financing. It's either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. The only difference between us and them is that we're direct plug. So I'm a servicer. You don't have to pay for Uber to get to me. You're already here. So I can help you by avoiding a lot of broker points and fees and get into this interest rate with a lender that you can count on that will take care of you for years to come. Make sense? So if they offered you 3 1/8, they're basically going to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Let me show you why most homeowners in Orange County prefer New American Funding though. Got it? Money?
Money.
All right. Another objection?
How do you shut down shoppers, like for them to continue to shop around? Like, like when you get the typical shopper that is just like, oh no, this for like, and they're just fighting for like less than 1/8 of a point, or they're like, no, well, their closing costs are smaller, or this is better. Like, how do you just kind of get them back on track to stay with you?
I do that automatically. So I've never really actually been in that situation because my message is more conformed to their needs, right? To where that, there's this saying that people pay premiums for speed. They'll pay the extra $12 or $8 or $500 in closing costs because they believe that you understand them. It's just really, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if in the event I did get caught up with, Mr. Patel that wants that 2.25 and he won't let it go, so
No cost.
yeah, 2.25, 30-year fix, no cost. And he's nickel and diming me. What I really will come down to is what kind of Luke said, is just the difference in payment. So if it comes down to 1/8, I'm saying, okay, well look, so right now I could save you $3,000 and that lender can save you $3,025. Right? So that's the example. So our question is not how can I beat the lender? Our question is how can I make up that extra $25? So then I get creative and say, well, fortunately with New American Funding for our existing clients, we have courtesy programs, meaning as long as you keep your payments on time, just don't miss a payment, okay? Every 6 months, you're eligible for a courtesy refinance, meaning we cover the closing costs. That's $1,629 in lender credit. Now I've already made up for that $25.
But can we do that though?
Fuck yeah.
We just give them a higher rate, right?
Hell yeah.
Cover it.
Does that make sense? So all it is you're controlling the perception that they have. So it's not saying like, okay, we can pay for your lender credit, but I got to give you a higher rate. Don't say that, right? Say, hey, we're gonna go and waive the closing costs. right? Because it's kind of like the PIW. It's like, hey, because of our relationship with Fannie Mae, I don't even need an appraisal, right? As opposed to saying, hey, I got an appraisal waiver, we don't need an appraisal. Put it a little bit more gist so that he thinks it's exclusive to you, or he's gonna call Loan Depot, right? Make sense? Any other objections on it? Inbound? No? Some good stuff?
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, for those of you participating in shit, I know some of you guys are shy. I'm just kidding. Objections when it comes towards the inbound call and outbound call, we probably do that. I'm sorry, on the pitch call, we could probably do that in another session. But as far as like outbound calls, so outbound calls are something that a lot of us dread and we kind of veer away from because there's more resistance, right? But if you look at outbound calls as more of a sport, as more of a game, you can actually have fun with it. And one tip that I have, you know, if you guys ever see me, I still follow this rule. I always have earplugs in. It's because I get in a zone where I'm just focused and I have it playing while I'm on the phone. So in other words, I got a playlist that's called Hustle Mode. Hustle Mode is just songs that really get me going, right? Like I'm about it. I'm just focused. Ask my team. I don't even talk to them. I don't talk to nobody. I'm focused. I'm trying to make that money. What else am I here for, right? I mean, I like you guys and all, but you know, it's really just about generating revenue. So whether you use that trick or not, it kind of gets you in a zone where you have fun with it. And so what I used to do though was have a recorder. And so if I had my AirPods in, or if you guys have a recorder, call and record yourself. So hit the record button on the Interaction desktop and actually play it back. Because when you save it, just like your lock script, it goes to a voicemail. Have fun with it. So call people on the outbound call with some creative strategy and be like, hey Jim, or hey Luke, this is Daniel. This is Daniel, just getting back to you. I just want to give you a quick heads up. I know you talked to us a couple months back, but we got this program that's actually expiring at the end of this year, and it's meant for the Orange County area. I don't think any of us have ever sent it to you, so I'm gonna shoot it over to your email because it is time sensitive and it actually applies to you. The FHA loan that you have right now, you are entitled to certain features that can help you remove mortgage insurance faster, if anything, lower your rate and payment. Make sense? So now there's intent behind it. And if he ever kicks me back and says, well, how could you turn that down, right? It's already en route. What would you say? Like, oh, no, I'm not interested. You're not interested in what, bro? It's an email.
No appraisal, no docs.
Yeah, right?
Like,
there's nothing that they could say besides, okay, yeah, go ahead and email it to me. And then what do you send them? So I had a question because someone replied back to the email and said, okay, well, what if they say email me? What do I send them? I said, well, technically the email that you send to them are disclosures because when they say, go ahead and email it to me, then your response should be, okay, great. While I got you on the phone, let me make it a little bit more tailor fit for you. With regards to your property on Myford, on the FHA loan, when we initiate this monthly savings, where would you direct that savings to, Luke?
Credit card debt.
You put it towards credit card debt. How much in credit card debt do you have now?
About $25,000.
Okay, and then the payments that you're sending on it right now is about how much?
A little over the minimum.
A little over the minimum? Okay.
Yeah, so it's struggle.
Okay.
So,
Do you notice that the balance is going down or improving or increasing?
about the same.
Okay, 25,000, man, that's probably weighing a lot on your credit score. So there must be other liabilities that's eating up a lot of your net income. You probably have kids, right?
Yeah.
How many?
2.
You see, all I'm doing is extracting more and more information, because in that conversation, then I have enough information to do a 1003, and then the disclosure ends up becoming the email. Make sense? There's no magical email template that I'm replying back to them. Even if they did say send me an email and I didn't extract any information, like this guy's good, Jim Jones, and he's got like 900 FICO, no debt, 4 more years left on his mortgage, the email is going to be the property profile. Have a great day. Right?
Yeah.
What else am I going to talk to him for? I just need to move him out the way so I can find someone else who I can move in with. But when you record yourself, listen to it back. And you can email it to yourself. So you can listen to it on the cell phone, maybe at the gym or whatever, and really pick apart that interaction, because they're responding in a specific way because you're saying something different or you're saying something unique that's making them trigger a response. And if you can become ruthless on an outbound, you'll be fucking deadly in a call center. You'll be deadly when the market rate goes back up and everyone's sitting twiddling them thumbs because they're waiting for inbound calls. You'll be the only one eating. Okay? Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys' time. If you guys have any questions, always hit me up, and I appreciate you guys making time.